Yeah. And all right, we're live. Yeah. Some people they've got the moving videos and all that. No, that's not me. So the one thing I need to do is I need to go to MCCW. I need to find the video, and there it is, and I need to mute it. Perfect. And then I need to pause. There we go. Perfect. So the reason I do that is one thing I learned is when you use StreamYard and broadcast over on MCCW, not all of the names show up. Like I don't know now if you can see the comments. Sometimes they'll show up, and other times it just shows up as user. So this way I can
Oh,
actually
okay.
see who's commenting. Hey,
I
Darpa,
gotcha.
welcome. Yeah, so we'll get started. I'm not gonna wait around for 40 people to show on because I don't get those sort of numbers. So yeah, welcome DARPA and everybody. I've got a great guest here, artist Adam Braun. Adam, welcome.
Thank
Love it
you.
if you would do a little introduction about yourself. You know how you
Oh,
sort of got into sketch cards, where you've been in hiding for a couple of
yeah.
years. All that.
Yeah, just a couple years. I started in comics back in the mid '90s. Coming out of high school, me and my friend were really into the Marvel and independent comics, and he was a penciler and I was an inker, and
Nice
we
combo.
did the convention circuit, and I got some independent work, but over the years, inking was hard to get work with. I wasn't lucky enough to get in with the big two, so I ended up doing some eBay stuff. Uh, eBay was a great place to sell pinup work or whatever. I mean, get a lot of commissions. And um, through the years, I was a fan of Marvel cards when I was a kid, but in the 2010s, 2012s, I I really started seeing the sketch cards take off and thought it would be cool to give it a shot. And I was lucky enough to get on some sets and did some upper deck stuff, which you have a couple examples of.
One
Um,
example.
and it was just, it was a dream come true to be able to work with Marvel characters. Uh, just really enjoyed it. And around 2017, I worked on my last set, mainly monetary reasons. And
But you
in
did buy a house off of your sketch card work?
Man, I wish I'll tell you, it's like if that was possible, you know.
Yeah, right.
Um, but what ended up happening is about 4 years ago, I stumbled upon a job at Heritage Auctions, and I am working in the comic department as specializing in original art, which is amazing every single day. Going and seeing some of the pages that I grew up with in in my hands, um, it's amazing.
I
And
see. I
I
can't even fathom that. Like,
no, the funny thing is, as much of a comic fan as I am, I'm a big collector, and Heritage has everything. Like you get introed into all the different departments: sports cards, memorabilia, animation, historical items. It's just ridiculous the type of stuff that comes in and out of that place. But it's it's like a wonderland for a collector, and I'm pretty lucky to be able to work in the comics department and see some of the stuff I would see at conventions, or some of the work, by artists that I idolized when I was younger. I had told you earlier, um, we have a Frazetta that's going up in a couple months, and it's just, we hold the record. I think we sold a Frazetta, I think 5 years ago, for like 3 point something million, something like that. Anyway, the painting that's coming up in a couple months is one of his more popular paintings, and you said you had seen it a
Yep.
few different places. And I mean, estimates are high, but it's in the millions, and
Yeah.
it's just
But
to
candidate to break the record.
right, right. And this is something that has been at the Frazetta Museum, that was on display there for years and years and years, and now it's going to be going into a private collection. It's to be, I held it, it's like, it's just ridiculous. It's I you go back to 20-year-old me and say that I'm doing what I'm doing now, and it's just, there's no way. There's no way.
Right.
Yeah.
So I've got dogs, and I think of that as like fostering dogs, right? Except it's like a really really expensive dog, right? And I think
It's
if I couldn't foster a dog because I know I wouldn't want to give it up, so I can't even imagine just even putting your hands around a Frazetta just for a second. Be like,
well,
I'm just gonna.
when you go to the conventions and you see, or even comic shops, and you see the walls, the comic walls that have all the high value stuff.
Yeah.
And as a kid, or even now, it's like, wow, look at that book, or look at that book. And it's like, it's sort of that space where you can't touch it. um, and these things come through my hands every day, and it's like I said to you earlier, it's hard to not be jaded. Oh, there's another Amazing Fantasy 15. Oh, what grade is this one? Oh, a nine
Another one.
four. Oh, a nine
Oh,
four. Oh, that's nothing.
only a 9.4.
But this one guy that works there told me when I first started, he's like, you will become jaded with the cool stuff. What you'll start to find cool is the rare stuff. So the things that we geek out about is the stuff that you don't see. Like, somebody will bring, oh, here's a book from 1943 that stars, the first cartoon character that did a dance. I mean, it's just, you get that rare stuff. Or
Nice.
me working in the original art department, the back of pages, like you'll get a John Byrne page that he sketched on the back and did like um, a little gag comic, and it's just like you never see that. So you take it around the office and say, look at this, look at what John Byrne did on the back of X-Men number 111. And it's like something you'd never see. It's awesome.
The kind of
But
stuff they used to do in like the letters page from the bullpen and all
yeah,
that stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
And as cool as my job is, I finally got to a point where I started getting the itch again to do some sketch cards. And luckily, I had communication with Upper Deck over the years. They had sent me some offers, which I rejected. Which now I think about it, it's like, oh, I rejected that. Um, I was lucky enough to still have that contact, and I dropped him a line and said, "Hey, I'm available. Um, if there's any openings, I'd love to do something." And lucky enough, he answered, and I get to come back into the hobby, which has really grown over the past 5 years to where it was when I went out. So I'm just thrilled to see, like, you and everybody else, doing the YouTube videos, and me having a little piece in that is like pretty cool.
Oh, definitely. That's my last one that I have just happen to have next to me. So, showing off your stuff. Get to some of the comments here. Derpa, Southern Hype, thank you for joining. So, what I'll do is I can click up the comments and then I can go back and see who said it on the Facebook side. So, this is Emrys says, The Strange is awesome. Love the shading. Who's this? This is Facebook. Josh Kennedy Smith. Thank you, Josh. Let's
Those masterpiece cards were a little difficult because we had to do a tribute to Just Go in one way,
right.
shape, or form. And as much as I love his work, that's daunting. It's like you look at the set and it's like, oh, I can't do that, or oh, I don't even want to touch that. So I I mean, it was a little bit of a cop out. You'll notice a lot of the
He's
pieces
a lot
are
of
the
the
close up.
tombstone.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just I just thought doing a play on that for different characters was a fun idea. It again, it was a cop out, totally cop out, but it was a
What's
fun thing.
What's funny as a collector though, I've heard a lot of people say they, even though they like the sketches as the art, they didn't like that people were forced to sort of mirror those poses. So I
Yeah,
think by doing it this way, you've actually within your own cards added a little sort of variety that you don't see from some of the other artists. You get to see a
and
lot
and
more
that's and
classic
that's the one
faces.
thing that's the one thing I didn't want to do. I didn't want to just copy what he had done. It's like I could have done a tombstone or I could have done a Wolverine in the same pose that he did. I just, to me, that was sort of too much cheating. I wanted to sort of pay the homage, but at the same time put my little twist on it. And I took some of my favorite characters and sort of put them in the shadows, or a few I did some more ambitious poses that I was pretty happy with. But yeah, that was a fun set. That was, I think, my first big set, and it was cool.
Well, that came out great. Clayton Holmes saying handsomest Hulk he's ever seen. Uh, Sidney Blumenthal, little flex here, saying he got his Frazetta for a song. All right, we're gonna have to see that Frazetta at some point there, Sidney. Another one of your fellow artists, Kenneth Hutchinson. I want to touch. He's talking about that Frazetta painting.
Oh yeah, you
Out of
you know
context, this could be a weird comment, right?
holding it in person, and it's framed all beautiful, and it's just, you know you sort of feel the energy that comes from it when it comes to Frazetta. I mean, you can see it reproduced, but to see the way he blended his color, and it just really stands out. It's amazing.
Another love for your rocket. Let's see.
Thank you,
This is
thank you.
Stephen Bagley. Stephen works for Stephen, is it Beckett? I'm pretty sure Stephen works for Beckett. So he sees a lot of stuff. He's always at the conventions as
Oh
well.
yeah, yeah.
So definitely great there. How you met? Thank Donald Comstock. Thank Donald. Welcome. If I don't do this now, I'm going to forget to get to the comments. So I always find this is Stephen again. Find the rare stuff. Fascinating to come across and see your gold to purchase. This is beautiful sketch cards. That's also Stephen.
Thank you.
From Jerpa. Glad that, yeah, exactly. It was. I enjoyed it as the tribute, and I think there. I mean, I could veer off Marvel Annual and do a whole thing on. Um, 16. I've been sorting them all, and I've got a whole stack right here. I still have to sleeve and put
Mm.
away. So, but I'm going to stay on Marvel Annual. But I agree. I'm glad they removed those restrictions. Another comment from Steven. When artists can find something that sets them apart. Yep. It's always fantastic. Absolutely distinct. When you can immediately just see a piece and know who it is. Oh,
Sorry.
alert.
Oh
Let's
yeah,
see.
Texas. Yeah, it's like
Uh,
go
Mark
off.
LaFontaine. Welcome, Mark. Mark, I believe, goes by Gambit Hands online, if I'm not mistaken. I've been really working on trying to connect everyone's Facebook name and their either YouTube or Insta name. I'm pretty sure that is Dr. Mark. So welcome. Alistair Wilson. Enjoy seeing the tiny corner of my collection. Well, we'll get to it all eventually for sure. And yes, Stephen, CBCS and Beckett. So I got it right. Look at that. I'm usually Mr. Forgetful. All right. Before I get into Marvel Annual, it was half of a joke, but I said I would show it. My mighty Matt Fuller sketch card collection. I've had two
That's
people
awesome.
draw pictures of me. So that's Vicente Boliviero. But my first one I got years and years ago back in another life when I was a big Walking Dead collector. Artist Brad Utterstrom is amazing, and he zombified
Oh
me.
wow,
So that was a lot of fun. So it's
that's
it's
great.
it's goofy, but really cool. You know, my inner child loves these. So, so what I've been doing on this, and I love having an artist on here because you can use descriptors of some of these probably far better than I can. Because I'm like, oh, it's pretty and it's curvy and it's blue, you know. And my I know what I like and I know what makes me drool, but I think being able to comment from an artist perspective will be fascinating. So I'm thrilled to have you here for this. Uh,
Absolutely.
oh, and one more comment here. This is where is it? Southern Hype. It's weird. Oh, okay, here we go. Yeah, I love that sketch. It tells a story. It absolutely does. Yes, it does. Thank you, Mark. And then Donald Comstock, who is uh, a Doctor Strange collector, and the word collector does a disservice to. He's got like he's cataloged Doctor Strange. He's this amazing woodworker. He builds all these custom. It's just the jack of all trades. He's like that guy. Have you ever seen that ad on the Facebook and other things? We've forgotten the old ways, right? Talking about how to get back to that. That's Donald. He's a jack of all trades. He's amazing. All right, so let's get right into it. So this is actually part 2 of Marvel Annual. I got through the J's the last time. I can't remember if this one artist was shown before. So this is artist Jason Meets, who
Nice.
obviously has a very cute cartoony style. And I say this all the time, but I feel like this kind of art is grossly missing in sets. You're seeing less and less of it these days.
Well,
Uh,
I thought I heard that they wanted to cut back on the chibi type style, and especially when it came to anime, they just wanted to sort of use it for that. But I think they were maybe even rejecting or telling artists not to use that style, which I think is ridiculous.
that may explain. That's interesting because there have been a whole bunch of artists who have had most or all of their cards rejected.
Yeah, I saw that.
Warner, but
Terrible.
one that, and not that any didn't. I'm not saying any didn't surprise me. I'm like, oh, those. I'm not saying those deserve to be rejected, but one that shocked me was Michael Lokaduck Duran. He
Oh,
does.
oh
You
yeah.
know, and he had an entire set rejected. And that comment you just made, because anime was coming out, so that might actually explain that bizarre decision by them.
Yeah, this is a low duck I
Oh,
got.
nice. Oh my god. Was that Greatest Battles?
Yep.
Oh, those two panel ones. That was such a fun set.
Pack pulled. Can you believe that?
Nice. I love that you're just like me. We've got sketch cards ready here at hand. I
Oh
love
yeah. When I was coming on tonight, I made sure to grab. I don't have a big collection. Trust me, nowhere close to yours. But I got a couple really good ones that it's like I've kept over the years. It's like he's one I've actually talked to him and got him to send me some prints. I mean, just really great guy, great work, and he can work in so many different styles too. But I really love his chibi stuff.
uh, Clayton saying Norm Abrams. I'm trying to think back to a couple minutes ago what that might have been in reference to. I apologize. I'm missing it there. Um, this is, yep, Liliana. You can't go wrong with some magic. Stephen. And then, yeah, Chibi ish. Yeah, that's, it's not, you're right. It's this, Jason isn't Chibi, but it's definitely sort of towards that side. Um, yeah, Derpa agreeing with you, preserving
Yeah,
anime, which is a shame. So, because I love them, and with Skets getting rarer and rarer and harder hits, you definitely want to see a little variety too.
that's one thing that really surprised me when I came back and started following is that it seemed like sketches were so prevalent, back when I was doing them, and now they're more of a rarity. I mean, um, I'm seeing people pull like one per case or something like that. That's just
Yep.
crazy to me.
I think the
It's
last
just sad.
two that were one per box were Masterpieces 20 and Premiere 19. I
Wow.
think since then it's been rarer and rarer to the point where, yeah, now some are even less than one per case,
Yeah.
which is, for me as a sketch collector, I mean, there's still the secondary market, which is fine. It just means I don't have to
Right.
gamble on the boxes. But with the increase of prices, obviously people tend to ask more and more for their sketches, even when they don't know the first thing about the artist or the character, which is
Right.
always funny. Here's a question for you. This is from Mark. If an artist gets accepted to a set, are they locked out of future sets for a set period usually?
Um, I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure. I never worked on 2 sets at once, but I could swear that I've seen some of the guys saying that they were working on multiple sets.
Yeah, I
Um,
know Marlo Martos, who I've been talking to. I know he's working on 3 or 4 sets now.
yeah.
I know the Rachos at some point we're talking about having 5 or 6 sets in hand.
I
So
I
I
mean,
don't
I
think that's the case.
yeah, I work slow. So, I mean, it might seem like fast, but I tend to take, you know, sketch cards, you think you could turn them around really quick. I just did one. It took me about 3 days, and that's really not a great pace when when you're offered 30, 40, 50 cards. Um, so so yeah, I only focus on usually one set at a time, and I'm happy if I complete what I'm supposed to.
Here is Sydney sent me. This is his Frazetta that he owns.
Oh wow,
Yeah, that is pretty cool. I actually like that with the actual text in the middle. That's
yeah,
wild.
that's great.
I mean, that one. I mean, it's certainly Frazetta, but it's also got one of the older artists who I always loved. For some reason, I found like a book of his art as a kid and just fell in love. And he was what from I think the 30s and 40s is Virgil Finlay.
Yep,
I
yep.
love his work, and the text sort of reminds me of that. But what a
I'll
fantastic
tell you
piece that is.
when it comes to Frazetta, I had seen his paintings. When I was coming up, I was more of a Boris, Julie, Soriyama. I'm from sort of that era. Um, so I sort of discovered Frazetta more when I got the job I got. But one thing is, a lot of people don't know the comic work. Like he was a comic strip artist back in the 50s, and he did some beautiful, delicate work. Like nothing like you see in his paintings. It's just he was such a great artist before he started doing the fantasy paintings, and the fantasy paintings were sort of like a cap on a incredible talent. um but his comic strip stuff was just gorgeous.
If
And
I think I've seen some, as I recall, he had a pretty bold inking style, right?
he would do a lot of bold contours, but he did this very delicate light feathering when he inked. So a lot of the detail work was very light and a lot of small lines, but his contours were big and bold, so they would sort of stick out. Um, Again, just amazing stuff.
Nice. So thank you for sharing that, Sydney. This is from, got to keep, this is from Stephen. Yep, most of the days you're lucky to get one per 4 to 6 boxes would be a great ratio these days, which is crazy for me to even say that out loud. Um, I'm worried. I mean, masterpieces, the last 3 masterpieces, 16, 18, and 20, have spoiled us. I'm worried that I'm going to optimistically call it Masterpieces 23. Um, when it comes out, I'm worried that this will be the first time that Masterpieces dips into that one per, not one per box, let's say that. And I suspect Premiere will be the only guaranteed sketch product since it is sketch focused.
Yeah,
So,
I'm eager to see who they actually got for the new masterpiece. I know that's like the big secret. And coming back, I love the Bianchi stuff. I love the Palumbo stuff. So it's like I'm eager to see this new set and see who they got.
Yeah, I mean they've definitely gone in some interesting directions there, so
Hmm.
they'll certainly be interested. I mean, I must have heard at least 10 different names of people who swear they know who it is. And then just whenever someone asks the question, it's like, it's pretty much a who's who
Right.
of Marvel art, like every possible name is thrown out there. So this one is from Donald. Yep, even with anime, yep, Scotty Young. Yeah, I, you're right. It's unfair just to call it a chibi style, but so many people are sort of doing that.
Yeah.
Imagine if Scotty Young would do sketch cards. Oh my God. Yeah, I would gamble on those cases.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we have Scotty Young stuff that comes. We don't get a lot of Scotty Young stuff. We've had a few covers that have come through my hands, but his stuff is still pretty rare. I don't think he gets enough credit in the industry right now. It's like, yeah, he did a lot of covers and he seemed to be a favorite with especially Marvel with the variants, but he's got such a cool style. Um, and you're talking about not being like chibi style. He's perfect example of that because he has a very loose ink style, not really sort of rubber stampish like that chibi style can be, depending on who does it.
Yeah. Jeff, oh, I've heard
Sorry
this
about
myself.
that.
No, no problem. Um, yeah, that I artists all the time, 100 in a month for annual. I mean, which is funny because when I first started collecting sketch cards way back when, 100 would be a low print run. Like back in the Tops days for Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Lord of the Rings. I mean, you had artists who were doing 300. You had a couple artists who did 2,000. But I mean, you got what you paid for, right? That's what a sketch card really was, a sketch, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And you got the infamous, in Indiana Jones, it was the monkey head and it was the helmet head things. But when you they got a lot of flack at the time, but when you think back, if you're being paid $2 for a sketch,
Yeah,
yeah, you deserve a $2 sketch, right?
right.
Get what
And
you pay for.
it was more the name that I mean, just to get something original from whichever creator you did. I mean, that was the novelty of it. And then it was like, hold on, we can do more. And I'm sure some artists, some ambitious artists came in and just did some crazy illustration and they were like, oh wow, look at what we could get somebody to do. And now
and
everyone's
and
got to
now
do
now it's here, do 100 in a month. By the way, full color,
it.
and preferably like these from Jeff Mallinson. Please do them in paint, and thanks. Right,
Yeah,
like that. So I'll sneak into the next one
nice.
before I get to some of the other comments. So this is Jeff Mallinson, and we're going to be seeing Jeff for a while because I've got about 15 from his set. This set,
Nice.
I love Jeff's work, and this is one of those interesting things that I thought about when I started to do this series because I'm going to bring some of these cards out and I'm going to gush over what I think makes these guys incredible artists. And I'm basically like saying, hey, everybody, come be competition for these cards. But you know what? In the end, I think sharing the love of these is more important than worrying that other people will discover them and maybe I can't get as many. That's absolutely fine. And Jeff deserves all this praise. It's probably a challenge to see from the scans, but these are all completely painted. I'm guessing that would be acrylic. I have no idea though.
The
Um,
best way to tell usually is acrylic will be a little shiny sometimes. Um,
Acrylic will also be
so
smooth, right?
oh, it'll be smooth.
Yeah,
Because the thing with acrylic is you can go ahead and water it down, sort of like watercolor. So it's
gotcha.
definitely deceiving sometimes, but a lot of people like acrylic because it can go either way. It could be thick or thin. So those are really cool.
Yeah. So, quick question for you: do you get nervous about rejections? I do know the answer to the second part, but I'll let you answer that.
Absolutely. Luckily, I didn't have many when I originally worked. It's like as long as you stick to their guidelines, um, they're usually pretty good. it seems like things have changed a little bit. So when I get my new set, I'm going to be looking at the guidelines to see what's passable. It looks like they like rejecting sexy women more now than they did then. So I have to watch it because that's
Yeah,
what I like to draw. But I'll tell you, I've seen horror stories. I've seen guys like Matt said, that got all their cards rejected, and for whatever rhyme or reason, whether it's licensing issues or just they didn't like the style, that's definitely a fear because not only do you not get paid, um, but I believe you don't get to use the APs, which is the worst part. And that's if they reject everything. I mean, I would guess
right.
if you have one or two in the set, you get to keep your APs. But um, I mean, it's always a concern because you don't want to work for nothing. Um, and of course, I want to try to get every card into the set so that the customers will maybe pull a cool card that I created. And trust me, I go on and watch the videos and see if anything's pulled. But did anyone get any of my cards? So I don't know how many hours I spent watching videos of Masterpiece 2016 pulls and just never saw anybody pull one of my cards on video. So still waiting to see that. That would be pretty
Yeah,
cool.
I've not. I don't believe I've come across any of yours back from 16. Let me just double check. Pardon me while I drop a sketch card. No, not from 16. So, or not from any annual actually. So, just gonna keep going ahead with these in the background here. Pardon me while I get them all caught back up before I drop everything on the floor. Little Hulkling and Juggernaut here.
Cool.
Again, very, very just simple style. I mean, not hyper realistic, but just I mean, I love his colors. Super vibrant.
Yep.
They just really pop out, and just great composition there. Someone else, yep, Virgil Finley is mailing. I think that was Sydney. Thank you. Just agreeing that, yeah, artists working at several at a time. That's Ryan Davidson. Thank you, Ryan. Yep, agreeing with you about Frazetta and his Golden Age comic book. That's Stephen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, this is a great point, Mark. You know, it's great that you'll get, the two sketches, but you're right. The problem with Premiere is you get the tin, you get the big sketch on top, and then you open the pack and you get a sketch and I think two other cards, right? A base card, something else. So there's not a lot to that break. They are pretty fast, but I will do this, and when I'm breaking mine, I will go very slowly, and I'll talk about the shading right there and just the blending of the colors, which I've got to imagine on paint is harder than sort of with like a Prisma marker or an alcohol-based marker.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why a lot of the guys like using the alcohol markers. It's a lot easier. And I usually work up, so I don't go dark too quickly. A lot of my stuff starts lighter, but using the paint and trying to get those nice blends is definitely difficult, especially at that size.
So I'm going to bring one of these back. So what was getting away from manual, what was the medium you used on these ones? Because to me, it almost looks like colored pencil.
Yeah, basically, I'll do the drawing, and then I lay down marker base. So I like having the colors underneath. So I just grab the alcohol markers and just give it sort of a flat tone, a light tone, and then I go in with the color pencil over it. Now, back when I was doing those, I did very little color pencil. Whereas, and this is one I just recently did. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. I do a lot more color pencil. This, I actually did watercolor. Here, let me go ahead and pop it out of the sleeve. So that one, I did a base of watercolor, and then almost all the rest of the color work is color pencil that I blend. And it's an easier thing to do when you have a knack for it. So I do more color pencil now than I used to back on the 2016 set. Um, but marker and color pencils my go to for the most part.
Very nice. Let's see. This is Steven. Yeah, I'd love to see a Sienkiewicz
Oh yeah,
focus
no doubt.
set. I mean, yeah, I that would be amazing. Or even just
There's a lot of artists I would love to see do a set, and it's just you know um, it's just too many to name. I
I
mean,
know,
some of the
right?
new guys are really good, but
I
of
mean,
course
I
I'm
would also.
blanking.
I mean, this won't surprise you as a sketch guy. I would love to see Upper Deck work with Marvel to leverage the bullpen, back to what they did in 2007, 2008. Get Bill to do just 5 sketch cards, right? Get
Yeah,
David Mack to do
yeah.
5. Get all, and get all these artists that, maybe people who collected comics as a kid are doing the cards now because they love them, but aren't really into the comics these days. Get
Hmm.
them introduced to some of the artists who are dominating these days. And
Oh yeah.
they don't have to do 50 of them, but there's got to be a way to leverage that relationship, you
But
know?
I'll tell you now more than ever, that would be so much more difficult because a lot of the guys do the stuff digitally. You know,
Yeah.
even the guys that don't work digitally send everything to the companies, send the images and keep the artwork. So it's like these companies really aren't even getting their hands on the originals. So, for them to actually get these artists to do something physical and send, it would be so much more difficult now than it used to be.
What might be, again, I'll give them, this is my free product idea to them. Just going back to, this is the only example I had. When you get the artist or writer autograph cards rather
Hmm.
than a printed one, why not just leave it blank and literally let them do a 20
Yeah.
second pencil doodle?
Yep.
People would lose their minds for something
Yep.
like that. Even the writers, get the writers to do it. They may be horrible sketches, but the fans would die to have something like
Oh
that,
yeah.
Just
Yeah.
even like when you see a lot of the autos in entertainment products, anytime someone draws like a little smiley face or a little remark, people absolutely lose their minds on those. And something like
And
that,
it's so easy to do something like that. The one of the best ideas I think Upper Deck ever came up with was doing the comic cuts. I mean,
yep.
who
Oh,
would have ever thought, well, I'm just going to go ahead and take a comic book and cut out a panel. And I mean, it's an awesome idea because people want a piece of something. So I don't care, like you said, I don't care if it's a writer, whoever, if they do something personalized, that you would never see anywhere else, people would want a piece of that. It doesn't have to be good. It's just
yeah,
something cool to have.
absolutely. Just because
Oh
I
yeah,
happen to have it. I'm a
nice.
huge comic cut fan, so
Oh yeah.
I get that's my side collection of comic cuts. A couple more comments here. That is a hello from who's that from? Freddie. Hey Freddie, welcome. Thank you for jumping in. I want 22 to be Assad Ribic, and I think
Oh,
it'll
that
be
would
Dave
be cool.
DeVries. Okay. All right,
Well, I
and
haven't
that let's
seen
see,
much from DeVries. That would be awesome. I mean,
that's from
his
Sydney.
stuff would
Yep.
be great.
All right.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean,
Delato. Oh, if we had Delato do, oh, that would be
I
insane.
know, right?
I mean,
Uh,
Delato, we've gotten some Delato stuff that he does in charcoal and pastel, like on black paper. Most of his stuff that he does that we see on covers and stuff is usually acrylic. Um, but he does some beautiful charcoal and color pencil or charcoal and pastel work that would be just awesome for a card set.
Nice. Emrys could comment. One of the restrictions, at least on sketches, is there can't be a gun pointed directly at the
Yeah.
user. So that is an interesting point. I think if it was like a comical gun, like just absurd, I think that will pass. Yeah, out of context, this is an interesting comment, right? From Donald, but that's for the Juggernaut sketch that passed. So And then back to artist pay. Yep, artists should be paid
Yep.
more and not rely on APs. I agree on that. And that's from Ryan. Derpa. Yeah, talking about the rejections.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So,
And I'm glad to be coming back when I guess they're starting to reintroduce Fantastic Four again, or
yep.
so they're some of my favorite characters. So it's like I see them in sets, and I'm happy. I love Galactus. I love Silver Surfer. I'm like, please let me get to do some of them. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I agree with everything Derp is saying. So, what I do know about the rejections, and I can't get too much into this, but what I can say is I spoke on the phone to the guy at Disney, who has the ultimate say in the rejections. Long convoluted story how this whole conversation got kicked off. Um, but the long and the short of it is UD is supposed to pre-approve under the guidelines, and essentially then it goes to this guy, and he's supposed to be a rubber stamp, but that's not always the case. And then if they all get batched up, this guy's got like an hour in his schedule to approve thousands of sketch cards. So it might
Wow.
be click, 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 no, click, click, no, no, no. Um, so that's all I'll say about that. It ended up being a contentious phone call in the end because he thought I was someone else. Long, long story there. Buy me a drink and I'll tell you. Um,
Yep,
Salvador LaRocca sketch card. Yep, that would be a
absolutely.
fantastic one. We got all right. Now we're on to like guessing about masterpieces. Let's see.
Ray
This one. This
Lago
is
would be great. I
Ray's would
mean,
be
he
fantastic.
always has stuff in all the different sets. I saw he had stuff in Fleer Avengers. Um,
And I think
he's good.
that's why we can probably eliminate him.
Yeah.
If it's someone who's a known commodity, it's got to be someone who people thought died 2 years ago because they've just vanished from the face of the earth, right? That's pretty much how it works. So, like, if someone's seen Ray in public, it's probably not.
Well, I
Uh,
remember Joe Gisco. He was posting like, "Yeah, I'm working on these. Yeah, I'm working on these," and but it was like, "Where's Joe?" He's got such a big social media presence. It's just he didn't then.
it's from Steven. Nowadays, the classical tradition more than modern day digital. Yeah, I mean, they each certainly have their place, but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. A lot of these guys that are working digital do some awesome stuff, and it's like I've tried. I do digital coloring. I've done some stuff digital painting. It's definitely a different animal. It gives you different options. um, but so many of the people now can totally recreate pencil and ink stuff um, in their computer as if they were doing it on board and make it look really good. So it's this weird area right now. Still not as big as it could be, but it's getting there.
this is from Sydney. Yeah, I might have a few. Yeah, you and me both, Sydney. Comic cut collectors are interesting. Like we tend to be, not that sketch card collectors aren't, but it's very easy to hoard sketch cards without even sort of thinking about not sketch cards, comic cuts without
Yeah.
even thinking.
And see, I'm
Um,
not that much of a pure. I love comics, but you got to think, the comics that they're taking these cuts from are probably trashed. I mean, it's not like they're gonna take a 9.0 comic and cut out some panels. They're gonna take one of these point 0.5 coverless comics and sort of reuse them for collectors. I think it's a
yeah,
great
I mean,
idea.
I think for the Amazing Fantasy 15, yeah, I
Yeah.
think it was obviously a really low one, but from what the cuts I've seen have been iconic cuts,
Yeah.
and they've all been pretty good quality. So, this is just a quick hello. This is from Norvian Basio. So he is a
Hey.
great sketch
Oh
artist
yeah.
as well, or
Awesome
just
stuff.
artist. I
Yeah.
I always say sketch artist because that's sort of my world, but I don't want to like try to imply that anyone's boxed into just sketch cards. So if you ever hear me say it, no, it's coming from a place of love, so, and not intended as anything else. So thank you for stopping in, Stephen. Yep, yeah, absolutely on modern artists. Derpa, yep, and Spider-Man Noir was the whole Noir series was an interesting. Um, well, this it was just an interesting bunch of stories. I'm a big fan of the X-Men noir one, so yeah, interesting about the guns. Absolutely, they're sort of funny on what they allow and what they don't, and what can squeak by for sure.
Yeah.
This is Donald, the final prelim for the FUA Doctor Strange. This is the card and the box art. Nice. Yeah, so that's do you know do you do a lot of bigger pieces these days, or do you tend to, what's sort of your focus? And where I'm going with that is, I'm curious, if you do bigger pieces, do you ever do a preliminary sketch to sort of map it out, or do you just kind of go all in?
I'm usually I haven't again, I haven't really done much work over the past few years, but I was doing a lot of pinup stuff, some pastel stuff, painting size stuff, um, and I usually do work a preliminary, and then I will either blow it up if necessary, or just do a direct transfer and then work from that. A lot of my work is in the rendering, so I try to go as simple as I can when it comes to the concept and coming up with the initial stuff. Um, but but yeah, I mean, I usually don't work too big. I'm not one of these guys that I have to go 20 by 30. No, I like doing your normal 11 by 17 type stuff, and keeping it under control, because I find that if I go too big, then there's just way too much to hit. It's like, let me keep it under control.
So another artist has joined us, Tony Perna, Under the
Oh.
Sea. I'm not sure if that was a reference to the Star Lord Blue, or that is sort of the problem with the delays on these. It's like, wait, what was that referring to? So, and Luis, welcome, man. Glad to have you here. So this one is an interesting one. So if anyone here knows who that guy is, please tell me. In my entire sketch card collection, I only have two cards where I don't know the character, and that is one of them.
Hmm.
Um, and I still bought it anyways, right? Because again, what I love about this is just, I mean, the rendering is really nice, but just look at just the variety in the background, the different colored shades of the green, the sort of speckle effect over here, just
And I'll tell
every.
you that that's hard to come up with because you want to make it interesting and you want the colors to work with the subject. And I always struggle with that, and that's usually what I say for last. So I'll do the character, and then I'll be like, okay, what color works with this? If I'm not doing any type of background, if I'm just sort of doing some sort of color like that, it's sometimes tough to come up. Am I going to do a gradient, or am I going to do spots, or to be able to do that, there's a knack to it.
Nice. Yeah, and this havoc, I would love to take a close. No, I'm gonna take this off. I'm gonna do something weird. Okay, yeah, I can tell. So the white is that sort of white, whether it's white. I'm assuming since he paints, it's white paint, which is interesting to
Cool
me. Rather
effect.
than mask it out, you can feel it's raised there. So there's a lot going on with those little havoc power circles. Very cool. Um, Little Mermaid. Yeah. And the same comment from Tony. Colors can make or break a background.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Tony is amazing at some of his background.
Yes.
In fact, I posted one of his cards earlier yesterday, and I think there were two comments talking about the level of detail, like in the trees, and it's true. And I mean, the details don't. I mean, these two are great examples.
Those are
The
cool.
background doesn't have to be crazy. It can just be a nice complementary
Yep.
color.
Yep.
And even like on the Hoblin, just a little bit of shading of the depth of the background just really makes it so interesting and just adds
That
so
is
much to
nice.
it. Absolutely. Clayton, comic cuts are to comic purists what game we're. I mean, absolutely. It really is. You get to own a piece of a comic. I mean, it doesn't have
Yep.
to be a super rare comic, and especially though, I mean, for those of us who grew up reading comics and potentially still do, if it's an issue you're familiar with and meant a lot to you, I mean, that changes everything. Like,
Yep.
I was fortunate enough on the Marvel 80th set to get a cut from the mini series that Sienkiewicz did the cover of, the Electro Assassin.
Mm.
I actually got a comic cut of the cover signed
Oh, jeez.
him, and that is probably my favorite comic cut. I mean, it doesn't compare to the Amazing Fantasy 15 and some of the amazing early issue ones, but for me, because I own that issue, and because that was the series that made me fall in. Well, that's actually not entirely true. It was really the New Mutants run, but you know, seeing what he could do, because that was a glossier stock, as I recall.
Yeah. Yep.
The comic. So just seeing how much more vibrant that was just made a huge difference. I totally agree that Havoc was fantastic, and even this, like these monstrous guys, like that's. I mean, it's just such a good vampire, right?
It's fun.
Just,
it's a fun.
Yeah, and it captures the evil and everything. I just much about it. And the red, God, it's a problem. I could just go on and on about these, and just gush and gush. And look at this! Finally, the last two Jeff Mallinson. Hey, we made it. We did it, folks.
Yeah, he's so good at doing like different expressions and really capturing the characters. Like that Namor is just, you get the character.
He looks like an arrogant jerk, right? Like exactly. That picture, right? It's just something about the way he did it. He just looks like you want to punch him in the face, and that's Namor in a nutshell.
And Wolverine's having fun with his claws popped,
exactly.
About to rip into somebody.
I'm about to gut you. Enjoy. This is Tony. So Tony also said before, if the artwork's done correctly, absolutely, you don't need a lot of details. And yeah, that was a great Morbius. Absolutely. Derpa. Also think that unidentified has an Alga's rune. Okay. I'll check on the runes from Norse. Maybe that'll be a good way to. So, you know what? I'm gonna screen print this right now, so I have it saved. Haha. Excellent. And this is Sydney. Nice. Yeah. So wow. In X-Men Metal, there were some cuts. Sorry, I just saw it coming. I'm going to have to address. Someone's goofing with me, but so a Giant Size X-Men was one of them. There were some great cuts from that. So Sydney, there were a lot of great issues in that one, but
I gotta admit, one thing with Heritage is that we've had some great pages come through from Giant Size X-Men #1, and one of the crazy ones was we got the very first page, and it was a total stat. It was a stat photocopy, no original artwork. What happens?
Did the person not know, or?
No, I mean, they knew, but a lot of the time, especially back in the 60s and 70s, the artist would do the work, and if changes had to be made, whether it was size or especially when Ramita was working as an editor and sort of running the bullpen, he would actually do a lot of corrections on everything. So if you find something from the 70s that has a lot of whiteout, it was most likely Ramita.
That's fascinating.
But what they would do is they would actually create the stats, and they would be production stats that they use for the printing instead of the original art. So a lot of the time we'll get some of that, and we got the first page from Giant Size X-Men #1. It was a total stat, and I think it still sold for like $10,000. So, wow. So amazing stuff.
All right, so I think Tony knows this, and he's goofing on me, saying, "I have a lovely home." All right, I'm going to give you all 10 seconds of sheer nightmare fuel. You ready? There you go. There you go. Cards. So
that's cards awesome.
That need to be sorted. Cards that are sorted. Stuff from the boiler room from when I got the haven't put back yet. look over there. Those are Blu-ray DVDs. You want to talk about
And
old
you had
school?
your system for that whole place, I'm sure. You
Yeah,
have everything's exactly where
it's
you
such a
know it
good
is.
system that I use this as a fade back then. Yes. Yes. Terpa. I'm now making it my mission to find out. Please do. I would love you to find out that character. So before I go back to more comments, here are a pair. So this is oddly enough. So these are two by Johnny Segura, and they both happen to
Nice.
be Ghost Riders, just slightly different versions. I think that's Blaze. That might be like I know there's Cosmic Ghost Rider, but he is the helmet, so that's not him. But I know there are a few different versions, or maybe that's
He's
just a
got some
stylized
awesome stuff
helmet.
too.
Yeah.
I follow him on Facebook and I see some of his stuff, and it's just one of those things. It's like, geez, oh man, you know?
And it's what I love about this. It's so fun. On this one, I mean, it's a great study in the differences. Right here, he did the
Mhm.
mask in ink, and he's got the flames all just coming out just in color. Whereas
Right.
here, he did the outline in ink, but the chains and even his face, there's no ink at all in them. They're all color. It's all just from color marker, which I
Nice.
think just adds this very interesting depth to it.
Hmm.
It looks cool in person. Um, yeah, absolutely. This is Clayton. Yep. Um, this is great. I mean, he's right. The
Yep.
sketches, you can get a whole variety of styles, and really see them.
And
And
as an artist, that's something that we're always conflicted about. I've always worked in a realistic style. I love doing realism. I always try to capture it, but there's always a part of me that wants to do something more stylized. And I tried to do that with some of my cards back, a few years ago, where I would do a simpler style and do a sharper outline, to try to create a more simplistic style that was still based in reality, but had a more stylized look. And I always find myself going back to the realism, just because that's sort of where I am. I've always been, but I always have like the stuff like Johnny stuff here is just to be able to do something like that. The artists that can do it, they just do it so well. And it's, me, I just try to recreate life, and it's like, oh, that's good. But when you're trying to draw Spider-Man or whatever, it's like, you gotta you gotta bend it a little bit. So it's difficult to figure that one out.
let's see here. Donald, yep, a lot of art with whiteout on it. Absolutely. And that adds, I mean, to me, that adds character to those
Mhm.
pieces too. You can see sort of, how the sausage was made on some of those old pieces. This is Jorge Gonzalez. Thank you. Great show, great sketches. Uh, yeah, no, I agree, and I think everyone should have a sketch in their collection.
Yeah.
Let's spread the sketch love, especially. And again, I keep saying this, but once you start collecting these and appreciate them and sort of understand the whole process, I think so many people then get into the APs and get this whole, virtuous cycle where, you collect it, then you go to the artist and helps the artist get paid, then helps them stay in the set, because they're making money. So they'll do more cards and it just keeps feeding back on itself. So it's definitely important that we keep that cycle going. And from what I've seen, I mean, a lot of times people say, "Hey, anybody get APs?" And it's always surprising how many people are sold out.
Yeah. Yeah. I know I would go through it pretty quick. A lot of people ask me what I have left. Like even today, I was getting messages asking me about my APs, and from over the past year, I have a whole bunch of independent sets that I worked on that I still have left, but the Marvel stuff would always go fast. And I still have two left from Marvel sets that I never offered, and I was like, oh, I forgot I had those, like a Age of Ultron set and
Nice.
the other Ant-Man set. I have those two, and it's like I just forgot to offer them over the years. I luckily still have a couple that it's like, hey, maybe I'll sell those. I don't know.
Let's see how many PMs you have by the end of this.
That would be nice. I'll take them.
Oh, so these next ones. So Brian, hey Rusty. Um, so his comment is no, no or sorry, ah, no, that hurts. Talking about my background when I took it off. Yeah, there is no system, just terrifying. Yes.
But that's pure collector. I mean, that's pure collector.
Yeah, that is the insanity. So while before I get to the next comment, so this one is the only one I have from the set from Jomar Bulda.
Nice.
Jomar's, so this size on the screen I think is perfect for Jomar. I think sometimes when I have scans that I share, I scan at a high resolution, and sometimes I think for some artists who do a lot of detail, in fact, here's a great example. I'm going to go one out of order here, but this is Keith Akers, and this
Oh
is an
wow.
EP for me, a recreation of the old X-Men sketch. And then while I'm doing that, I will. So what my point here is, some sketches hold up very well at close inspection, and others like Jomar, I always tell people with his is, you want to hold his arm
Yeah.
length,
Yeah.
and that's when it all just comes into the right focus for there.
Yep.
And I'll show the example here.
And it is insane to do that kind of detail, especially on that X-Men. I've done a couple where I did really small details, and it's you have to keep your pencil sharp and your brushes like really, really, sharp points on those, because working at the size that these cards are is not easy.
Yep. So excuse me for the sorry for the coughs there, guys. So here's a perfect example. So I mean, it still looks good, but I think it looks a little choppier when it's super zoomed in.
Yeah, it's more loose.
Right. As opposed to, now let me see if this works when I go forward here, as opposed to this,
Wow.
where I think the detail holds up a little bit better when it's bigger.
That's insane.
It's still, but even here, even still, sometimes like when you see it super, super close up, you can say, oh, well, the lips, the reds, maybe a little off. So that's the problem, I think, with these giant scans, right? It's sometimes it's not great to see the super, super detail. Just at that arm's length is always perfect.
Well, most of the time, just to let people know, your markers do not have that fine a point. So the guy that did that X-Men cover, he was probably using a brush that I
Yeah,
mean, just to get that kind of detail is insane.
yeah, get as close as possible.
Yeah.
So this is one of the only two of the oh my god, why can't I think of the word of what this surface is? It's not acrylic. I'm just totally drawing a blank. But it's this plastic stuff, right?
Oh,
Maybe it
like an
even
acetate?
yes, it is acetate. There's a word for it. Maybe it is acetate. I'm totally having a senior moment, as they say here. Um, so I think it probably looks better with the white than it would on the on the black. Yeah,
Oh,
kind of
okay.
loses everything there. So
Huh.
that way you can see all the details. That's Justin Ayers there.
Wow.
Uh, let's see, and then back to this comment. Uh, Derpa's got a Fleer Ultra Avengers cut from Avengers 200, a 1 out of 50, which is one of the worst stories of all time. Okay, now I'm going to have to Google it. Okay. I mean, some of these comic cuts too. I mean, there's some like back in the Avengers, the Silver Age. You had comic cuts like this that you can see were out of 187. So they did a ton of them, and in fact, they used multiple copies of the same book. But yeah, some of them are super limited. Like that Avengers one was 15. I'm pretty sure Amazing Spider-Man 15 only had 15 cuts.
Yeah. Yep.
Although I heard there's going to be another 15 maybe in the beginnings
Oh, that'd
of
be
the
cool.
yeah, so more chances to get that. So yeah, I mean these were really hard to do right. A lot of artists talked about how the surface was really hard to get anything to stick to.
Yeah,
So
I
when you
can't
find
imagine. I've never worked out over, like, somebody said plexi as probably like the plexiglass type
That's
material.
exactly what I was trying
Yeah.
to get to. Plexiglass. Thank
Yep.
you. Let's see. Did you? Let's see. Back to the beginning. Clayton, I use the word campy with all due respect, and it's a term of endearment. Campy meaning classic comic style. Absolutely. Um, yes, yes, I am buying all these. Wahaha. I think you know what? Let me just look. I track everything that in terms of Marvel. So I can tell you that da, 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 I have over 700 APs from Marvel. Yeah. But again,
Wow.
whenever I can, I like going that way because I like that interaction with the
Hmm.
artists. I think you get something unique, and it really, just like I said, it keeps that cycle going. So it's so important. And I would rather give my money directly to the artists instead of someone who's selling it.
And
Not
we
all.
appreciate it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's not to say I don't buy sketches in the third market, or open market. I certainly do. Going back to this one, so these are
Wow.
both two APs. Speaking of which, I never mentioned this is artist Keith Akers. And yeah, I went with sort of one of my favorite X-Men stories. Just this old kitty at home alone on Christmas when the Brood attack.
Hmm.
That was just such a great issue. That I think 14-year-old me, I think it probably was, really loved that story, and then went with a much more modern take on Magic from a more modern New Mutants cover recreation. Uh, Gotta find me that Miss Marvel. There you go. Let's see. Sorry, I gotta find back to my comments. That's from Patrick Leclerc, and I think Patrick means the Kamala Khan Miss Marvel, not to be confused with the Carol Danvers Miss Marvel. Yep, yeah, Clayton. Yep, gotta look on EPAC. Absolutely. I mean, it feels like 3/4 of the product at least ends up on EPAC. So if you're hunting for sketches, you've got to be willing to do EPAC to do your research. Absolutely. Um, Here's a fascinating one. I just absolutely love this. I don't even appreciate all the detail here. I may actually show this.
Oh wow.
Kenneth Rocafort is the artist. So let me find. Oh yeah. All right. So I'm going to show the bigger screen on this because you can see so much more of the detail in the scan, like all the delicate, work
Wow.
on that, right?
That's insane.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
And it's one of those where I saw it on EPAC actually, and you couldn't, wasn't a good scan. So it was very blurry, but so you sort of got the idea, but something about it told me, I'm like, there's something good about this. And I am so glad I got it. It's just,
Great background and everything.
yep, and just very stylized and just so many little details. Just a fantastic all around card there. To do Southern Hype. Yep. Yeah. I assume at this point we're talking about the 2 acres. Absolutely. Tony. Yep. Absolutely. I agree too. From Derpa. Staying with the boxes everywhere and taking a break from buying. So I get everything sorted and organized. Yeah, 5,000 comic boxes. I mean, yeah, you saw the sneak preview earlier over here. Yeah, I could not agree more. Organizing is so important on so many levels. And in fact, I find I have to, believe it or not, there is some organization here, because I have to at least get into some semblance, because for your own sanity, quite honestly, like it gets, Brian was joking, but not joking. I agree with him. It does get distressing when you can't keep track of everything. So, um, yep. And so Jomar only did the one. Jomar did just the, who was it? I think it was Deadpool. Sorry, going back. Cyclops. Sorry, Jomar just on the Cyclops on that one. Work out moving stuff around. Absolutely. Yep. The two that were together were Keith Akers. Thank you for correcting me uh, there. Do Plexi. No Punisher yet. Actually, oddly enough, I don't know if there are any Punisher in my Marvel annual, but we will find out. Uh, Plexi, thank you. Again, I'm so far behind on the comments. Another Plexi, thank you. Uh, this is, let's see, who has all the comic cuts? Tony, yep. Tony has all his Avengers Silver Age comic cuts. Those were a lot of fun too. That set in particular, the Avengers ones, I didn't read a lot of those stories growing up because those were some early ones and I didn't go back on Avengers. But what I will say about that is they were very meticulous in making sure they got good cuts. There was one set I was personally a little disappointed in Age's cuts. I felt like they were rushed and didn't always have really good ones. So when you see well curated cuts, I think it makes a huge difference. And while I'm talking, these are a pair from Kokonakis Achilles. Uh,
Oh, nice.
he's with his sort of trademarked
Mm.
border style that he does on his, and sort of the circles with the different composition pieces of the character. Really love those, and a very Dark Knight vibe to that Old Man Logan there too. Yeah. Yes, this is definitely right, Rusty. I track everything and just stack it in tall piles, and you know try not to knock them over. Uh, oh, here's a great question. So how about I'll let you answer this first, and then I'll answer it in terms of sketches specifically. This is
That's a hard question because it's
all
like
right.
uh, all the names flood to my head. I saw it a little bit, so I was sort of cheating. One guy that I really love his cover work is Jeff DeCall.
Okay.
Um, he has a really Sienkiewicz type style. I saw him at a convention once, and he was talking about how he was a big influence, but he's one guy that I think really stands out. But comics now have so many good artists, especially doing these variant covers. You could pretty much, pick out 100 different guys that are doing awesome work. My one friend, Kyle Holtz, I always love his work. He does incredible feathering and shadows, and he's been doing the Carnage covers, and he does a lot of good stuff. But honestly, there's so many guys that I love. I mean, I have a soft place in my heart for like Adam Hughes and Terry Dodson and stuff. Guys like them. That do the really nice good girl stuff. Um, but yeah, go ahead. Who do you think on the sketch
I mean,
cards?
the challenge for me is so I only have done a few comics recently, which is I've stayed up to date on sort of all the X-Men. Um, so I'm going to answer it more from sketch cards. But the problem there is, even here, I might say people who I may have only discovered in the last 5 years, but have really jumped out. And I think a good example is someone we're going to come to in here. But since it's 2016, that would be, a little outside of the 5 years, but I'll say it anyways, which is an artist named Sean Beck. I really, really enjoy his style. He sort of really jumped out at me. Mallinson as well,
Mhm.
who I've only discovered in the last few years, but I do know he's been around much, much longer. Um, so it's a challenging question.
One of the
Uh,
sketch card guys that jumped to mind for me, and I'm not sure, was Walter Rice. Is that
oh
his name?
yes, Walter does some great, great work. I
Awesome
don't have any
stuff.
from this set, but yeah,
Yes.
his work is always on spot.
Yeah.
And I've gotten a few APs from him as well. So
You
very
showed some
happy with those.
Tomas on your last episode, and I
Yep.
love Toma's work. Um, yeah, there's so many guys that do amazing stuff. Anthony Tan, I believe, has been you know showing stuff off online. and he's always been an incredible artist. Um, yeah, there's so
I
many to choose from.
I think in terms of newest in the last few years, I mean, obviously Ash has shown up on the scene, Ash
Yeah,
Gonzalez in the last
yeah.
few years. But someone who I would throw, and I've been trying to go through my files and find him, and I think I just realized why I haven't been able to find him. You know what? I'll just do the search. Is Oliver Castaneda, who's known as
Hmm.
Viscritos. And I'm not sure how I have him. I must have him under Oliver. That's why I can't find him. Yes. So I can show you this one. If I go to present and share screen, there's like 10 jumps. So this is an AP Oliver did for me from Marvel Anime.
Oh wow,
Yeah. And a lot of people know him. His
wow.
stock has definitely like soared recently. Here's one from Black Diamond and another anime Storm and
Wow,
Spider-Man Metal. So
those are nice.
yeah, I mean, he, like I said, fantastic work. So I'll go with those two. Whether it's my favorite, just because I'm on the spot, I'm probably missing. Um, and was it the Brood, Tony? I must have said something other than the Brood. So yes, it was the Brood chasing her through there. If I said it wrong, my apologies. I am a numbers guy, not a words guy. So
Here, while we're showing cards, I get another
oh,
of mine to show. I don't
all
know.
right, yeah, put
One
you
of my
on.
favorite guys, if you could guess who that is.
Oh no, not me. Stop. All right, let me hang on. Let me go back to
Let me get
group
the
layout.
light
Where is
up.
it? All right, and then I'll click on you and solo. There we go.
There you go.
Oh, nice. Is that Jose?
Yes, it is. Just
His is one
gorgeous.
that once you know his style, it's
Yep,
instant. Right? He
yep,
does such great work. He's got I don't even know how I'd sort of do it. He's got a lot of like really stylistic curves to his
yep,
work,
yep.
and not anything
Beautiful
that
women.
throws anatomy off. It just really great,
Yep,
and
love
just
his stuff
great.
too.
The yellow there going
Oh
over the
yeah,
body, nice touch.
and yes, another pack pulled. Don't ask me how I did that, but when you pull a pack and you get two sketch cards in one pack, that's that's a happy
Two in
day.
one pack. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, it
Oh,
was one pack.
we don't get enough of those anymore.
Yeah. And what this was a Woman of Marvel set. So
The
yeah,
first one.
yeah, I believe so.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, let's see,
Although,
2013. Yep.
so 2013 was Women of Marvel 2.
Oh, that was two.
Yeah,
Gotcha,
Women of Marvel 1 I think was 2010.
gotcha.
Excellent. All right, yeah. So the Miss Marvel was talking about the sketch achievement. Oh, there we go. Sorry, I gotta find back to my original. Uh, uh, yep, Clayton's agreeing.
While you're
Oh
showing
wow,
me, I'll just throw that up.
is that Sarah? Or is that Hall?
Hall, yeah.
Both of them do that sort of painted style, but yeah, Charles. Oh wow,
Oh
that's
yeah, just
with the
gorgeous.
Avengers logo in the background. I almost
Yep,
didn't notice that.
yeah, it was a
So
Avengers card.
that's a great set. So
Yep.
good. Let me go back to group layout. I think there we go. I threw a pair up here quickly. We've got one from Cursat site. I'm just going to go with Cursat because people know who that is the one on the left, and Leon Brajos is the one on the right, the black cat. I am going to quickly refresh myself. So this is the Cursat is sort of a third string X-Men named Wraith. Who's mainly known for sort of that see-through skin. So I thought that was an interesting challenge to draw someone like that, where you've got the body, but you have to show the muscle and bone underneath. I thought he did a great job on that one.
Hmm.
And like I said, and I had to send references because it's not like I say Wraith and people are like, oh yeah, of course I know who that is.
Really great highlights on the body too, like showing the light hitting from all sides.
Yeah. In fact, I can also do that to Zoom, can't I? What do you know?
Nice.
All right, I'm getting the hang of it, and then there. That's the one to get back. There's so many camera options. It's crazy. What do we got? I ended up having that. It's probably Donald, if I had to guess. Let me find the Facebook, just because he's talking about building custom cases. Yep. Donald, Tony asking how the collection's going. So I'm like narrating a conversation between two. What is this? One of my favorite annual artists. Love what he did in 2016. Again, I'm on a delay, so I don't remember who that was. I mean, hopefully, probably about Kokonakis at that point. Oh, good Lord. Of course, there has to be a trade. Thank you, Brian. Clayton agreeing Viscotose is his favorite. Tony pointing out that he is a fellow Canadian. Oh, boy. All right, we just went down a couple notches for me there. Who is this? Oh, lives 25 minutes from me. Oh, Tony's stalking him. All right, I see how that is. And Clayton's family. So we're having like a Canada reunion here. Wow, that is pretty cool, eh? Sorry, it's so bad.
Hey, you did it before I did. You beat me to it.
I'll take the bullet. There you go. A huge fan of Patricio Carrasco. Yep. Packbull Carnage from Spider-Man Metal. Yeah, some of his stuff I've seen recently has been fantastic. I do have some of his work, but I'm not going to get off track. I'm just going to point out these two are great. And again, the Leon Brajos, really love this Black Cat. Just, again, sort of just very cute style and just, I mean, even here, it sort of, it tells a little story, right? Victory. I got the crown jewel there. Cursette is doing that is Clayton. We had talked about that earlier. He's doing a Lion-O from Thundercats for me. That's bringing me back to the 80s. And Donald saying, oh, nice, that Cursette did his all-time favorite Doctor Strange sketch card AP. That is pretty cool. So I'm going to throw up a Marcia die. And only because she was on a show that I learned the proper pronunciation was Marcia and not Marcia. Marcia. Sorry. Brady reference there. Just a great one there, and that's an AP she did. Me and my crazy Danny and the Demon Bear obsession. I commissioned well over 100 of that duo.
Wow.
It's because, because I need help. All right, so this one is going to need a little assembly. Try to get it all on one screen. 4-card puzzle. Get it as close as I can. This is Marlo Martos. I believe this was an achievement puzzle.
Nice.
The Sinister. But yeah, sort of love the. I'm a huge fan of puzzles. And I'm a puzzle collector from back in the day when you didn't get all the pieces in the same box. Facebook.
That had to be maddening.
Yeah, to be on like Blowout and Scoundrel. Oh my God. The good old days.
I've only done one puzzle, and it was for an AP. I hope to do some for set one day, but it's definitely challenging. I mean, sure, you tape it together when you work on it, but just making sure the composition works so that they can stand on their own as well is always a tough thing.
Yeah, I remember Dre talking about that, and that's sort of one of the requirements these days. Yeah. Which probably should have been all along. I remember back in the Lord of the Rings day, I got a piece of a puzzle, and it was either a 4 or a 6-card puzzle, and what I got was a Hobbit foot. Yeah. Enough said.
Hey, at least it wasn't a toe. You got the whole foot.
There you go. Right, a hairy foot. It's a Hobbit. This Ghost Rider is another Marlowe. Just great detail there.
Wow.
On that. Let me zoom that in just solo layout. Just give it a little more love.
Wow.
Yeah, really like Marlowe does amazing.
And the background works so great with that one too.
Yeah, I mean the background, the foreground with the flames. Tony Perna, yep. Tony did a lot of. I've got quite a few of his from that Lord of the Rings set as well. I think Tony, yours were masterpieces too. I want to
His
say the
foot would have been extra hairy.
exactly, exactly. You've seen the Tin Visual Strand. I want to say the one I got was either from Evolution or Masterpieces One, and the foot was either Leah Mangay or Kevin Doyle. I can't remember who it was. I'm pretty sure it was one of those two. Yeah, good times, good times. Who do we have here? We have Marshall Baker, and I'll hold off and just put him by himself right now. Let me go back to here. Yeah, Tony was masterpieces too. Good times. At some point, I probably will show some non-Marvel cards. I mean, there's nothing branded in. I won't obviously post it in MCCW, but there's nothing branded about this that says I have to do only my Marvel sketches. So, little living tribunal here. Just I like
That's cool.
one of my. I've got all sorts of crazy sort of goals in how I collect sketches. Part of it's just things I like. Part of it is I want to try and get. My original goal was one of every mutant, and then I spent a weekend going online and discovering there were well over 2,000 mutants. And there were new ones being added every day. So I sort of, my new rule was it had to be a mutant who at least had something substantial, with a few exceptions. I do have an AP of a pair of mutants who appeared and then died 2 panels later. It's sort of part of the whole like mutant massacre thing, so I didn't mind that. But yeah, it's funny sort of where I draw the line.
Those are your prized possessions because of how rare they are.
Exactly. You know, Rusty, you're right. I mean, the hobbits could have like survived the third age if they actually got into footwear. So I think that's why they didn't stay around in the Age of Men. Get a pair here from artist Mason Easley.
Nice.
Again, I think I mean all of Annual was great, but I think pound for pound, 2016 had just a great ratio of just amazing sketch cards. And again, that's not to belittle any other one. I've got them from every year in here, but the 2016s in particular really jump out at me. And maybe they had. I'm not even going to speculate on why. I'm just going to say I absolutely love them. So yeah, and I think this one is sort of interesting to me. First of all, I love sort of the angle here on the hand. With
yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough angle to do.
Yeah, really good there. But this one, just to me, you don't often see Mystique sort of holding a katana, so it was an odd choice, but I like it because of its sort of uniqueness. Although, and what's interesting though, speaking to your comment earlier, and sorry, I'm using my letter opener as a pointer here. This would be rejected today.
Yep, that's what scares me.
Yeah. So, but if it was covered, you'd have better odds. But yeah.
Or even just taking the emphasis off.
Yes.
I'm a child of the '90s. I mean, that's where the emphasis was.
Yep.
So it's going against my DNA to do anything different, but I'm going to have to.
I mean, I think if you're familiar with sketch artists from the last 10 years or so, I would say, every time cleavage is covered, Michael Axbone Potter loses a little bit. So
Yeah, no doubt.
He's the master.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That covers it all, Tony. Yeah. And so what's interesting on this, Travis, is it's actually Marvel, and beyond that, it's actually Disney. Right now that Disney owns Marvel, the Disney standards sort of flow downhill. And Marvel being under that banner, that's sort of where those restrictions come. And then with it being at Marvel, through the contract with Upper Deck, they have to abide by that. So if we're going to point a finger at anyone, it's actually Disney and not Upper Deck. They have no control over what the standards are. Yep, and Derpa, there you go. The horror. We've got Matt Hebb right here. Matt is a fantastic guy, and
Cool.
I really like this sort of version of Sabretooth. It feels much more like the uh, the Lee Schreiber version,
Yeah.
and not,
Yep.
just a little less hairy and sort of more that human. And I'm pretty sure there was a run in the comics where this was him. I don't think it's
Mm.
trying to be that character, but it's just, I like it because it's different than sort of the standard Sabretooth, who I absolutely love. In terms of villains, he's probably in my top two or three for
Nice.
mutant villains. Just a great rendition there. And then who is next? Now I have to remember who this is before I put it up there. Sorry. Oh, Matthew Lopez. Okay, there we go. So that was Matt Hebb. Let me throw up the Matthew Lopez puzzle here. So we have,
Cool.
we'll
Which
test your comic knowledge. We'll see if you know who's in between X-23 and Dakin there.
I don't know.
So that is another clone of Laura, a younger version.
Oh.
Might go by something else now, but at this point she was Honey Badger.
Ah,
But there's a whole storyline now that with the whole resurrection protocols with the X-Men, they're both sort of together on that island, and yeah, they're like bickering siblings since they're technically the same person, just clones. So they have some fun with it. And I think that ended up being the split that she ended up keeping the X-23 mantle, and I think she became Wolverine. Don't quote me on that, though. I would have to go back and reread some of those. But yeah, even now, when I try to read comics, I have to sort of skim them just because time is so hard to come by these days.
ooh.
I know, right? So this one on the left is Michael Dorman. And that character is. Oh, I don't know how it's. I know who the character is, and I want to say it's. I can't cheat because I took a copy of all my scans and threw it on a flash drive when I did the first video. Updated that one since, and it's not on this flash drive. It's on my computer upstairs. So let's go with Cool Dinosaur Lady, but she is a real person. And I have her name, and I swear I know who she is. So there you go. And then this one, so this is a really cool Black Panther rendition by the Glebes.
Wow.
And I was really, really happy to pick this one up. You know, a lot of, I think there could be a lot of controversy on this, in that, the only reason I use the word controversy is because it's the first thing that came to my mind. I think some people are not fans of sort of that shadowed out approach, but I think this is a perfect example of how to do it right.
It's so
Right? He's,
unique. I,
yeah,
I mean, it's
he's completely rendered. Right? You can see the claws here, you can
yep,
see the necklace, and you can see the eyes. The whole the water here with the colors, the background,
yep.
really makes it all just stand out.
But I
And
have to say, I think that probably 90% of any other artist that would do that card, it would probably get rejected. Because I just don't think that Upper Deck would want an artist to do silhouette cards. But the Glebes, it's like you
yeah,
get something like that. So I could definitely see that being a risky card that most artists would probably shy away from and go, I don't think I'm gonna try that one.
yeah, right.
But they made it work so well.
So this is a card everybody can keep an eye out for. Tony Perna is a Hercules with cleavage. There's some nightmare fuel for you right there. But you know what? People would still like kill themselves fighting over it, I'm sure. So, all right, here is one of someone who may be my next focus character. I'm going to put it out there because I've been having some people do some APs, and I'm doing a little project. So all I'll say is it's this character, and this is artist Mick Trimble, and it's
Ah,
Dupe. He is just
I wouldn't
so.
know how to do that. I just, me being a realistic guy, it would look like freaky if I if I did dupe,
That
but
sounds fun. All right, now I
I
want that on an Ant-Man sock.
I can't because I would have to find a reference. It's like, okay, who's gonna be my dupe face? And I would
I think
look
your
and
only reference could be that ghost from Ghostbusters, right?
yeah, well,
Climber.
yeah, for the form, but the thing
Yeah,
with his face is you want to capture sort of that. I would want to do him realistic. You know, I would want to see, okay, can I make him work in reality? Would he be able to be in the MCU? And that's what I would try to do. I don't know if it would work, but I would try it.
yeah. So this is Tony says, here's his comparison. The Glebes put a setting sun on the card, and I drew the Hulk topless. Hey, there's room for every type of art, Tony. It's okay. It's okay.
And you
We'll
got to
all
draw the Hulk topless. I mean, that's just, you
unless
know,
it's Joe Fixit, and then he's in the
true,
suit, right?
true.
So MSGOD, thank you for stopping by. OG, excuse me. Very unique. Got hooked on sketch cards because how much can an artist can do with a small canvas, and that's why I love doing this and just giving people a glimpse into all the different artists and exactly what they can do, and just absolutely love it. Um, this is artist, and this is I think the only card I have from him. Artist Mike Van Orden, a nice Ghost Rider. Um,
Nice.
again, what I love about Ghost Rider is you get so many different takes on the skull, right?
Yep.
You get
Yep.
some that are sort of the very, traditional like 1930s horror, plastic skull with the jaw
Yeah.
and the teeth. You get this one that's got this sort of interesting, it's almost sort of like a horror movie sort of skull
Yep.
with the sort of glowing eyes and just very subtle flames. But I like what he did with the color, with the pitch from the orange to the yellow. Definitely has that feel of just I was just camping last weekend. It's got sort of that looking into the fire effect.
Gives
So
the artist the room for interpretation when it comes to a skull. Everyone knows what a skull looks like, but that's where the
absolutely.
artist can really shine.
And Matthew, I'll show this. Matthew Otten sent me a PM, and this is actually a dupe that I won on eBay. We'll go away real quickly from this set just to share this. There we go. Present. I have a horrible habit of talking out loud when I'm clicking on things. Uh, Dupe
That's
with sort
awesome.
of the ice on, and this is, and in fact, this is actually the dupe. This and one other is what prompted me to send out a couple AP requests on dupe. So thank you for sharing that. At some point, I'll get to Feral Avengers' set and share that. But yeah, I think Mike did some great work there. We have, sorry, I gotta go back here, close that. Tony saying Dupe, Darpa, everybody loves Dupe. He is OP. It is, if you've read the stories, it's sort of, he's almost like a mini Superman. It's just sort of ridiculous. And they don't really let him utilize those powers all the time because the issue would be over in about two panels. Tony saying just draw a pickle. There you go. Oh my God. Derpa, PJ. Yep, that's the one. Oh, so there it is. So that comment,
Yeah.
that was the one for FUA, and that's the one that I have. I love that. Jack Black would pay to play too. That's right, Rusty. That would be a good one actually. Oh, that's it. So that's interesting. So back to your comment about how you sort of would be challenged on that.
Yeah.
Um, that's why Freddie Ian sketches with characters that are human look a bit wonky. I don't know if I'd go
Sure.
with wonky, but interesting. I could see that, yeah, someone who's used to sort of realism,
Yeah.
maybe like a character like, I'm trying to think of some of the ones he did recently, Minotaur, or, so yeah, some of those. Yeah, it would be
His
interesting to see.
Morbius was definitely outside, I think, of his comfort zone. You know, it's like, but he still did it in such a cool way. You know,
Right. And he, I think, is human enough
yeah,
that,
yeah.
you
But
know,
giving somebody that sinister look, you want to sort of make them. that Inhuman, and very very interesting stuff.
Yeah, Tony saying he needs to draw Mister Fix-It on a future set. Yeah, what is it? It's
Get
Mister
the
Fix-It
hat
or
on.
right? Yeah, I mean he's great. I have one of my favorite ones I have of him. I only have a few. I'm a closet Hulk sketch collector. I have one by Ted Dastic from MM16, and he just did a great job. And exactly with sort of the hat, and
Mm,
that was a fun character. And he actually made a brief appearance in the most recent Immortal Hulk series,
mm,
which, by the way, if you haven't read it, I think it's a 50 series arc before they restarted on a new one. One of the best comics I have read in recent times. And you wouldn't think I'm a mutant guy, but I loved that run. So good. Um, uh, yeah, talking about Fred, humanoid or so photorealistic. Yeah, you knew I bought that dupe. There you go. Just like Slimer from Ghostbusters. Absolutely, Clayton. And again, yeah, Clayton's point is, yeah, wonky isn't meant as like bad. It's how we geeks sort of love it.
Stylized.
Exactly. Yeah, and Dupe, you're right. Dupe. I mean, God, he's like a green pear. So he's a. Let's go with a little Mitch Ballard right there. Just throw in a little Magneto. Gotta always have a little Mitch. I hope Fred doesn't want. I I think he'll I think he'll understand the love that's being displayed here,
Oh
Clayton.
yeah, the set that he's doing, that Unbound set, is just insane. And I was following his work like before he started working on that set, and he was doing some beautiful like full size paintings.
Oh my
So
God,
for his work to translate to the sketch cards, and for him to do sketch cards, is incredible. His stuff is gorgeous.
absolutely. Don't think I have any of his handy. Um, I was well. What I was going to say is, yeah, I was fortunate enough that I have a pair of his original paintings from Unbound, and they're just like you say, to see those and to see the
Hmm.
full size, and just it's just jaw dropping. But then to see what he can do on the same on a small canvas, you're right. It's
Right.
just like how
And I think he works in oil, doesn't he?
he does. Yep.
That's crazy.
We got a piece by so this is Onias, Onias, who I believe his real name is Nathan Cole. So a couple going back to my New Mutant love. In fact, I'll throw all three up here since I've got them.
Ooh,
The one
Magna.
in the middle gets a little washed out with the light, but I'm sure we can get the point.
Nice.
Uh, oh, here's oh boy, who's Aslan Ascalon? If you go by, so here's what I'm getting. The truth is, it changes day by day because it really depends on the piece. If you go by sketches I own, my top three would be Mark Ferrera, Andre Toma, and let me look who are my top three in terms of quantity. I got it right here. I don't even have to guess. And Butch Mappa. So each of those, I've got over 100 sketches from each of them. So
Wow.
you could probably make a good argument that they're these days the ones I've been picking up at more of a record pace. Definitely Warren Martinek and um, Lack Lim. Lack
Like, yeah.
Lim really enjoy his detailed work.
Is he
He
doing anything lately?
The last one I want to say I have was from he did some on MM20, I believe is the last ones I have seen. MM20, no, and X-Men Metal he did some. So
Mm.
that was the
Really
last one.
clean stuff. Loved his stuff.
Just like he and Roy Cover, like the
Mm.
level of detail they put into their cards. I
Yeah.
mean, some people are going to say this is sacrilege, but I put them just a hair behind Nar in terms of the level of detail. Nar's his own
Yeah,
level
Nars and
like so I'm not saying he is not one of the absolute greats, but I'm saying their level of detail
no.
I see in that same sort of theme.
and Cover's ability to recreate different scenes and covers and stuff like that is amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and then if I go back to who said this, go back to Facebook, Brian. Uh, yeah, so Brian was saying that for Fred, overly muscular characters are tough, like Venom and Cho, is what he said. Amadeus Cho. I'd see. I would assume the challenge for something like that is I'm pretty sure he uses, if not models, I think I remember hearing he definitely uses references. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would think if you could get a good reference that's got the muscles, but the problem is some of those characters, there is no model that can reference some of these characters, right? So it's
and
just
that's
yeah,
and that's the biggest hurdle that realistic artists have to sort of deal with is that if I go, because growing up I was referencing all the bodybuilder magazines, and it's like you follow the bodybuilders and you learn the anatomy that way, and all your characters look like Rob Liefeld characters. It's like because that's what you're focused on so much. But with characters like Venom and stuff like that, you need to exaggerate, not, like even beyond the bodybuilders, and just sort of twist and make it almost unbelievable to really have it work with somebody like. I mean, he's got a mouth that would never exist anywhere, and that's what makes it so cool.
I seem to recall when I was, collecting comics back in like the late '80s, early '90s. I'm pretty sure there was a book of Boris's stuff that
Hmm.
showed a lot of the bodybuilders who were the references for the
Well,
paintings.
Boris was a bodybuilder.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
Julie
he
was too, right?
was that.
Wasn't Julie as well? Isn't that sort
Yes,
of how they
that's how
met?
they
Yeah.
met, as far as I know. But yeah, they were both. Their physiques were amazing, and he would get the guys that he worked out with for a lot of his reference. Um, but I mean, Boris's stuff. The thing that stood out to me about his stuff was his color work, like the way he utilized all these different vivid, very vibrant colors in his paintings. To me, is what made his work so amazing.
Yeah. And Tony, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love that he does the sketch cards, but I mean, Fred's work is made for big pieces and translating into base cards. That's
Yeah,
clearly the best
yeah.
use of his talent. So that's awesome. And for those who don't know, Perna Studios puts out quality stuff, and actually is one of the few companies out there that actually takes care of their artists. So maybe we should give Perna the Marvel license. Right? And I think there's a hashtag in there somewhere. Sorry, real quick, just on this one. This is, I'll probably butcher his name. It's Nan Gwen, I think, Nhan Gwen. And I am an absolute, here's another one of my dirty little secrets. I am a sucker for word bubbles on cards. Like just something about it, it just reminds me of the comics, and I instantly have to have them. So if you got one with those bubbles and you want to hold me over the fire, now you know. Um, so let's put this back to, I think it was this one. Nope, this one. There we go. So yeah, there we go. Uh, Another artist who is definitely one of my favorites that I discovered from sketch cards is PJ Katakatan. I probably said that way too fast. Someday I'm going to have PJ on and him pronounce it for me. Um, what I love is, so this guy, Emplate, is a very interesting. I'm sorry, is that Emplate or yeah, it is. I couldn't remember if it was him or Abyss, who's got snakes for hands instead of a mole for hands. Um, I love PJ stuff. PJ's another one who does a lot of stuff with the circles to sort of add some composition and just sort of limit the background. I really like what he did there. I've got a bunch of APs in the can with PJ. Just absolutely adore his work, and
Wow.
especially here on the Iron Fist, just great use of the flames just to make that effect on the hand.
Yeah.
I don't get me wrong, I love the Netflix show, but sort of the light bulb in his hand just didn't quite do it for me. But I guess
No.
it'd be a little too expensive to do animated things. And this is Clayton, by the way. Yeah, Fred's Phoenix lithograph is just, in terms of achievements, that just set a hell of a bar. That was just a great one. The pieces were large. Who keeps
I'll
farming?
tell you, that's probably my chair, and I apologize for that because
All right. I'm
I
like,
turn, so it's probably my squeaky chair.
I saw that and I looked around. I'm like, because I have pugs. I'm like, are they down here? What the hell? How can you hear that? They're upstairs. Because yeah, I don't know if you know anything about pugs, but it is like a symphony of farts 24/7. Ridiculous. One more PJ. Just an Omega Red, not
Ooh,
just an Omega Red. Yeah. I have another one, but I need all the space for it because it's another 4 card achievement puzzle. Um,
wow.
Katakutan. Katakutan. I think I said Katakatan. So is it Tan or Tan? We'll have to have a follow up on that one. Here is another PJ, so I will have to put it together. This is if you sort of have to. I mean, you could appreciate it without, but this is
Oh
from
wow.
a very recent X of Swords was the event.
Jesus.
You know what? I'm going to do it sideways, even though it's going to look weird. That way we can get it all on the page.
Wow.
So this was an achievement one. So this is X of Swords X-Men story that they all sort of had to battle um, the avatars from Apocalypse's wife's team. Her name is escaping me, but it was this whole sort of battle royale. This guy, Pog, I believe his name is, a giant alligator. Spoiler alert! I think it turns out that it's sort of like a robot body, and there's a little dude inside of it. So sorry if I ruined it for you. But I mean, that's
That's
just
just
love
insane.
that. I'm a
Yeah.
huge Magic fan, and just seeing that particular battle recreated was great. Um, cool. No more comments to follow up on. I'm actually caught up. Yay! And we are approaching the end. We probably only got about 15 more. Getting there. I think I have 100 in total from this set. So this
Wow.
is Philip Berg from these sets. It's all of them from 16 through 22. So let's do two at a time. So the Emma is Philip Bergquist, and the Colossus is Rainer Lagunsad, or Lagunsad,
Nice.
or again, I'll let Tony correct me.
That
Rookie
blue
character.
effect on Colossus is really cool.
Yeah,
It
with
sort of
the
start
streak
the
in the
burst.
background.
Yeah.
It is nice. It definitely complements, especially because of sort of the white and just with the light gray on his armor.
Hmm.
Definitely having that color really helps it to stand out. I bet it could be very washed out without a background.
Right.
Whereas Emma with the blue and the yellow on the edges, it's not quite as noticeable. Although there is a very light blue sort of on the background there. That one's sort of interesting. I always love to see how people interpret sort of that transition as she turns to diamond. You usually only see
Right.
that sort of
Right.
effect on like a rogue when she's absorbing the powers, but I like how they did that there. Very cool, very cool style as well. Excuse me, I get the hiccups for no reason. Who's your favorite X-Man character?
Oh. Very good question. Um, I would guess probably Jean Grey. I'm a big Dark Phoenix fan. Um, I'm sitting right next to my Dark Phoenix Iron Studio statue. I just think she's such a cool character. So if I had to pick anyone, it'd be her.
I mean, again, that was sort of that whole Bronze Age period was sort of my defining period for comics. So I couldn't agree more. That whole Death of Jean Grey storyline was great. Some of it definitely got a little convoluted. The whole
Sure.
Madeline Pryor thing later. It's like, wait, what? This is like, your evil twin sister kind of thing from with soap operas with just a Marvel twist. Um,
And runner up, you got to put Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler, such a cool character.
yeah, the Nightcrawler. what they did with him having the demon look but being so religious
Yeah.
that I mean, I'm sure. I always wonder if I went back and reread those from scratch, like from Giant's Eyes all the way through, say,
Hmm.
150. I don't want to, other than bits and pieces, only because I'm worried it's going to be like one of those things where you remember a food from your childhood and then you have it and you're like, what was the big deal? I'm worried it will be like that.
But
Um,
I'll tell you, for me, I was a fan of Excalibur. So, it's like I read all those X-Men, from the beginning, but in Excalibur they really developed his character, because I mean he was basically the leading man of the series. And they put him in that role, and they really, played on that really well. And I love that series. But Alan Davis's run through that was just awesome.
Alan Davis's art was just, it was so different to me than anything else I had seen at the time.
Hmm.
Um, if I don't know. I don't know. I think it definitely helped that it was sort of an X series.
Hmm.
It was one of those that at first glance I was like, "This is different. This is weird. What is this?" And
Well,
then
he
like,
had that Marvel UK stuff. Like, a lot of the guys that did came over from Marvel UK had that sort of. It was realistic style, but it was busy. I mean, he had really busy artwork. He managed to put in so many characters. It was not much. Didn't really see anything like that then.
what I sort of remember at the time was, I think my first impression was his faces are a little round,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And then sort of, but once you sort of see what he did on like the splash pages and the covers, like that Excalibur #1, that would be, if I had to make like a top 20 covers, if I was ever the billionaire and I could, throw Scrooge McDuck money around, that would definitely be the one to grab for
Now,
sure.
now, do you mean the Excalibur #1, or do you mean the Mojo Mayhem cover? Which,
The Excalibur #1,
okay,
right?
all right,
With,
the one with the lighthouse in the back and everything.
yes,
Yep.
exactly.
Okay.
Yep. And then, so that would be one of them. And then the other 19 would probably be Art Adams covers. So,
Oh, yeah,
right.
yeah.
Right.
And
I
and I
I would take a Gumby cover by Art Adams, to be honest, because I
you
bought
could
that
have
just because he did the art.
you could have Gumby on a long shot page, because in when he did
Yes.
long shot, he actually would draw in the margins.
Yep.
And
And
one of the
Pokey as well,
pages,
right?
yep,
I
one
remember
of the
hearing that.
pages I saw had Gumby in it, and that's just he, yeah, yeah. I love Art Adams.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, his detail, I will put above Nar, and I don't think anyone's going to, send me a
Oh
death
no,
letter.
no. Especially, he's one of the artists that, as time went on, his stuff has gotten even more detailed and more insane. Like, you could point at John Burns stuff and say he got a little more simplistic, or Frank Miller. We know where Frank Miller's gone with his style. Um,
And
Art
his
Adams.
fault.
Well, I mean, I understand the blowback from his most recent stuff, but it's all style. It's like his stuff is all driven by that style. He's just trying to go for something
I mean,
that.
and in terms of iconic comics, I mean, his
Oh
X-Men
yeah,
run with Terry
yeah,
Austin, I mean,
yeah.
I don't know that there's any better, quite honestly.
No, but Art Adams stuff now, he puts so much work into each and every line he does. It's just a masterpiece with every piece he does. Even his little sketches that he does at conventions, he still does the meticulous line work. It's just insane.
Let's see. This is Clayton. Gambit is my favorite. Cyclops and his brother Havoc are next. Yep, good with the. What about the third brother though? Come on, you got to
Yeah,
give Vulcan some love,
Vulcan, yeah, no doubt.
and then you got to get Daddy Starjammer in there too. Come on, I mean, let's get the whole family.
Corsair.
Um, yeah, so Gambit. Gambit was banned for a little while on sketches, but not as long. Nightcrawler's been banned for ages. Like I think since about 2016. So that's an absolute pain. Brian, you already know my answer to this. Brian, he's throwing me a lob ball. Before I answer this, just before I forget, so the kitty is Ray Ray Cho, and the puzzle here is Rodney Ramos.
Nice.
So those have been up for a while, so we'll just move on. Brian, you know I love Luke Welch's art. I've got a ton of APs from him. Some of his premiere two panels, I believe, were just fantastic. I mean, I've got the Jugger Duck, which is one of my favorites. So yeah, I absolutely love Luke stuff, and I know Brian does too. And Derper, yeah, Art Adams, Warlock. I mean,
Yeah.
again, I don't think there's a bad Art Adams out there. I mean, there was
But
one.
Sienkiewicz Warlock is pretty close.
Oh my God, he just goes absolutely bonkers on some of that stuff.
Yep.
I remember there was a time where my goal was to get everything Art Adams did in comics, and the other guy I was chasing, even though he wasn't a Marvel guy, his style to me, he'd be in my top 20 of pieces to get. I don't know which one, but Dave Stevens from The Rocketeer.
Oh yeah.
And if you do pinup stuff, yeah,
Oh
you
yeah,
definitely
yeah.
yeah.
And his stuff in person, his line work is so much better in person because he would do such detail stuff that wouldn't even translate into print. His line work was so thin and precise. It was it's amazing to see in person.
Throw up a little Santa. Santa is another artist who, in terms of popularity, has absolutely taken off recently. People have really figured out that her sort of anime style is just fantastic. So I'm thrilled to see her sort of get that recognition that she deserves. But I think some people have known even back since I think the first piece I have from her is Masterpieces 2008.
Oh wow.
Either the first or the second set, either the A and the B. I can't remember which one. But yeah, she did some amazing. Again, she's been doing this sort of chibi style since back then, and such good work. These next couple are from an artist I had mentioned earlier in terms of ones I discovered recently, and this is an artist named Sean Beck.
Nice.
And I've discovered his work specifically on MM16. I don't know that I have anything other than MM16 with his work on it. Was she on Premiere 2014 Santa? That I don't know, Brian. I could check NS lists. I don't have any of Santa from 2014, but it wouldn't surprise me. But off the top of my head, I do not know. Sean's work just, I think the camera sort of gets it, especially with the blink. Mm-hmm. Just super, super crisp color work, just very vibrant, just lots of nuance. I mean, this one in particular, the background, you've got the circles with the stars inside, the different colors. I mean, that card just delivers.
The eyes are just gorgeous. So just pulls you in.
Yeah, it's a little exaggerated, but it works for a character like Blink, and the Colossus, again, just nothing breaking the bank in terms of just the sort of character composition. It's the color that just pushes this to the next level. Just so much different variety there. The yellows, the whole background, just the white with the reflection off of his head. Oh my God, absolutely love his work. If you get Sean Beck stuff, I'm your Huckleberry for trades. Couple more. Classic Carol Danvers. Another big-eyed Groot, sort of that style. And again, look at the detail in the background of Captain Marvel there.
Yep.
There we go. Solo
power effect. That's cool.
I mean, just so very nice. Oh, just absolutely love it. All right, couple more. A couple more Sean. A little magic.
Love that Medusa. That's a great angle.
Tony, if you stuck around, you're coming up. Tony Perna in the wings. Spoiler alert. Again, just the I don't know what color isn't in the magic. Maybe there's no blue, but you got green, yellow, red, orange. It just so vibrant. Like a lot of cards, when I scan them, I have to play a little bit with like the saturation of the vibrance.
Hmm.
Not these ones. Not these ones. And then a Rachel Summers to
Nice.
round it out. Just
That background just makes it pop.
yeah, absolutely. And then if he stuck around, here's his reward. Tony Perna from MM16, little cable.
Nice.
Love that there.
How many
So
figures you got in there? Like one, two,
yeah,
three.
the hand here, two, three, four. I mean, just the sort
And
of
then room for background at the top. Come
broken
on.
either house or ship in the background. Yeah, the effects coming off this. I mean, so I'm moving my mouse like you guys can see my mouse on the screen, which I realize you can't. So that's yeah, absolutely. Just
Working
Tony's
with a magnifying glass for stuff
yeah,
like that.
Tony. I
That's
mean,
just
Tony is absolutely right up there with Black and Roy in terms of just the level of detail they cram into these cards.
wow.
It's fantastic. And again, this was a pack inserted, and I think he was probably paid $5 for this, right?
Yeah.
And it just
Yeah.
the dedication that he, that you, that other artists give to us as collectors. Um, I think once you establish yourself as a sketch collector, you get it, and you
Right.
realize how spoiled we sort of are as collectors.
But
In
you are the exact reason why we do this. I mean, the fact that you're doing this kind of video and you're showing this kind of appreciation for all the different artists that you have is what makes us as artists want to give you the best that we can. And trust me being on this show with you, it's like, you know, it's an honor because I hear the appreciation in everything that you're talking about, and that's what makes us do what we do.
yeah, and that's sort of why I wanted to do this. I mean, there are in terms of entertainment, there's some phenomenal YouTube stuff out there for information.
Hmm.
You've got Spidey Hits, you've
Hmm.
got the Roundtable in terms of just talking about cards in general and just
Ian,
banter and
yeah,
having
watching Ian's
fun.
show.
So you got if you want comedy, you've got Marvel Jerks, you got Our Collectors Podcast. I mean, there's so many great shows out there, and that I'm just hoping that I can carve out this little niche. And you know what? I've got 11 viewers. I don't need a ton as far as that goes. I just want to be able to talk about this stuff because in terms of the hobby, for me, this is what it's all about, and this is what brings me the joy. So I'm hoping I can
And the
introduce some more
same with
people to it.
me. Yeah, the same with me. I can come to this type of video, come across it on YouTube, like I did recently, and see all these different artists doing different stuff, and have an appreciation for everything that they're doing. It's like, you know, nobody's good or bad when it comes to so many different styles of art that you're getting. And the appreciation comes to, you collect certain characters or you have certain themes that you want, and it's a great way to show it off to everybody through a show like this. So absolutely, I mean, you're doing a service.
That's fun too. Last two, we've got Magic, which is Tony Scott, and then we've got this. I love this Daredevil Electra because it's got the sort of two different styles in it, and this is
Yeah.
Two View. I think is how you pronounce his name, Twovoo. But I
She looks
think I just
ghostly, like the
yeah,
Electra looks really ghostly.
yeah. In fact, let me get it so it focus. You know what? This one might be better to actually have the full size one because it is getting a little washed out. It does have that effect, but you
Mm.
can see it a little better if I do this and this and this. There we go.
Oh wow, okay.
I mean, it is almost a little big, but he does these very sort of very stylized paint
Mm.
cards. Sometimes his figures are exaggerated, but it's really just this unique style. And I love here. What's great about this scan is even sort of here in the chin, you can sort of see
Yep.
the depth that the paint has there.
Yep.
And again, that along with word bubbles, to me, when you can actually see the texture on a card,
Yep.
and
Absolutely.
it just shows you that whole process. The other one that I love, which is weird, and you don't really get it unless you go back to 2007, 8. I love when you can see the blue lines or the pencil lines that are still
Mm,
there,
hmm.
because it just shows those bones of the art,
Yep.
which I
Yep.
think is just so cool to see. So let's stop sharing. Okay, yeah, and then yeah, all I need is a card case storage system. That is absolutely true. So there we did it. I got through Marvel Annual. Hallelujah. So you have got a set coming up. Uh,
Yes.
I don't think we'll unless you want to say it on here. I don't know
No,
if you're allowed.
I'll leave it
Yeah, a
for
mystery.
yeah. Let's just say it's gonna be a cool set. I think
Nice.
it has been announced in the social media verse, but when it becomes official, I think people will be very happy with it. And I'm thrilled to be able to be working on it, and I'm really looking forward to doing some cool stuff for everybody.
Yeah, and there are the good news is well, mixed bag, I guess, because our wallets are crying. There are just so many sets that have been announced and are coming in the pipeline. It's madness.
Yeah,
Um,
there's a lot. There's a lot, and it seems like there's a lot that have been on hold for a while. So
yeah, and
it'll
they
be nice when those start coming out.
yeah,
Um,
I mean, I think there's at least 10 I know of. The two, obviously, I'm most excited about. I don't really go for the MCU sets, so I don't think Allura is my bag personally.
right.
My two
Yeah.
ones are Masterpieces, whenever that comes, and the even more delayed Premiere, which is supposed to be 21. We're
I
now
actually got a couple pre-orders. I pre-ordered the What If set because I think
nice.
some of the cards in there are going to be nice, and I actually pre-ordered the Infinity Gauntlet set that's coming out.
Oh,
Um,
the Allegiance one.
the Allegiance, yeah. I just love the cosmic storyline, and I thought it'd be really cool to give that one a shot and see what comes in there. But yeah, I mean, it's like I've missed so many sets in the past few years that I find myself going back and watching the videos of some of the breaks. Um, I'm currently watching Marvel Gems. And those are some interesting breaks with the exquisite cards and all the special cards in there. But um, yeah, there seems to be so many sets on the horizon. I'm really looking forward to what's on tap, and hopefully I'll be able to work on some more sets in the near future.
Nice. Yeah, what if might be I may, even though that's technically MCU, because it's animated, that one I might actually dip my toes into. But I think I'm a little fortunate that I have that dividing line that I'm only on the comic side because it makes it a little easier to manage this insane time that's coming up. Because
Is Allure gonna have sketches? I don't even
yes,
know. Oh, okay.
yep, they are. Yep,
Right.
I have seen have a few. Cannot confirm nor deny, but I know the answer.
For the person asking what set, I'm not going to say the set name, but I'll give a hint and say that it is going to be another metal set, and I'll go. That's as far as I'll go.
There you go.
Um, you'll everyone will be happy, I think, when it comes out.
No, definitely. I think any set with sketch cards is, at least to me, a blessing. So I'm looking forward to it. And Keith, I agree. Keith Allure will have great sketches, 100%. I've not seen anywhere near the full roster, but just from the artists I know, it's going to be solid. And what I do know in Allure is what's interesting about them is there's two different types. They actually have them broken out into typical vertical sketches, but they also have horizontally framed sketches with the border on the side. So it's literally built to be a horizontal sketch, which is interesting. I don't know if that's a remnant of something in the hockey world, but I know that's where that set came from. So that may be where the influence was. Cool. All right. Well, why don't we wrap this up? We've hit wow, 2.25 hours. I appreciate you sticking around with me for this whole thing, Adam.
I appreciate you having me. Like I said, I'm excited to be back in the sketch cards. Like I said, it's grown so much since I was gone, and I'm really excited to see what people think with what comes out.
Looking forward to it. Like I said,
Great.
I will love to add a couple more to my horde. Awesome. Well, thank you, Adam. Thank you, everybody who took the time. Derpa, thank you. I really appreciate you
Thank
guys
you.
turning in. I hope it's interesting. I hope you discovered some artists that maybe you didn't know and that you're interested in now. Uh, and I don't have a closing out phrase either. If you can think of one for me to use, uh, I don't know who that has something to do with that. So sketchy. There you go. I tried once. Even sketchy, but that just doesn't sound right at all. So we'll work on that. So thank you everybody,
Thank
and
you,
we'll see you
everyone.
next.